Hello everybody, I'm going to do a very quick video on integrity and the reason for this is because someone asked me to actually define what I meant by integrity and honesty, and this was in the context of a video that I'd made on the subject of no longer being a nice guy, of no longer being a people-pleasing individual, of stopping the whole idea of manipulating to get your needs met and instead being authentically, proudly, courageously you, whatever that means. And so obviously I was espousing the values of integrity and honesty, and the question came back, all right, well, what do you mean? So let's chew into that. Integrity. Look at the word, right? The word is all about integration. So what you're doing when you have integrity is you own yourself. You understand yourself. You understand your core values, your needs. You understand the way in which your mind comes to perceive things. So you kind of understand when you are having thoughts that feel like you, but you're also humble enough to understand that that might be completely misconceived. So the idea with integrity is that you have worked on yourself. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. You know where your habitual responses are coming from, and you know, even if they're habituated and you can't necessarily control them all the time, you know if they're valid or if they're invalid. Yeah? So the whole purpose of being integrated, of having integrity, is being complete. It's being whole as an individual. It's knowing thyself effectively. Yeah? And getting to the point where the reason why this came into the whole idea of stopping being a nice guy is that once you have that integrity, once you are comfortable inside what it is to be you, once you're able to lean into your perceptions, lean into your feelings, rather than recoiling away, rather than having denial, instead you understand what you are, you know, in the humility that that isn't perfect, well, then there's no longer any need to win, is that the word? To prove your point all of the time with other people, because you're already winning. You're already comfortable inside your skin. And so this idea of integrity goes very, very well with this idea of honesty, right? So let's talk a little bit about honesty, because this is complicated, okay? What is truth? And unfortunately, truth isn't true. Truth is malleable. Truth is in the eye of the beholder, of the perceiver, okay? Your truth, the things that you consider to be absolutely true, they are a function of a whole variety of things, okay? So they're a function of your experience, let's say, of the way that you've come to understand the way things are. But they're also a function of your state, your mental state, your emotional state. They're a function of your habituated ways of thinking and acting and being. They're a function, believe it or not, of your expectations. They're a function of all those habitual ruminating thoughts in your mind, the fixed ideas. And so what you consider to be true has been constructed based around all of the stories running inside your mind, based around all of the experiences that you've had up to date. And so somebody else can have a very, very different truth about the same story, about the same context. And of course, this is how arguments occur. This is ultimately how wars can occur. So it can be very interesting. You know, it's amazingly useful to understand how your truths have been created, because it's extremely important to be honest, to be able to be, let's say, courageous enough to exhibit your honesty, to be authentic. But you need to understand that that truth, that honesty that you are exhibiting, might not be someone else's perspective. It might not reverberate with them in the way that it does with you. You know, when I talk with people one-on-one, I find it quite useful sometimes to say, well, it seems to me that, and then I give them my explanation, my observation, because that's how it feels to me. That feels to be my truth, but what I'm doing is I'm asking for more information back. And so I think it's very, very useful, because that gives you a sense of humility, it gives you a sense of wisdom. And so to go back to integrity, when you are exhibiting your integrity, you are owning your truth. You are able to draw upon your higher values, your core values, your higher purpose. You're able to look at the greater good, perhaps. You're able to consider and to respond rather than to react. You can come to decisions which are in your interest, but your interest is also encapsulating, the environment that you live in, or the other people that you're working with, or even the greater good of the entire planet, depending upon the issue. So it's extremely important to understand what honesty means, because once you've reached the point of being integrated, once you have integrity, there's less need to shout. So even though I'm pontificating, okay, I know that all of this that I am telling you is my truth, and it might not be your truth, and your truth is as equally valid as mine. Yeah, I'm just giving my understanding of what it is that I've come to learn from this. And so once you have that understanding of what truth is and how it is to express your honesty and what it is to be integrated, and there's no longer so much need to shout, then you can start to question your entire actions, your motivations, because there's no need to be right in the same way. You can start to ask yourself, what does it mean for me to be winning? Yeah? What does it mean for me to exhibit myself? What does it mean to ask for what is important for me? And what does it mean for me to express what is important to me? So it comes with a sense of humility. So the thing is, once you have this sense of integration, once you have integrity, that you own your experience, but you're also humble enough to understand that that might not be completely true, that other people's perspectives at least are going to be a little bit correct, and maybe just as correct as yours, and might be more correct than yours, then suddenly you have a sense of stability inside of you. And the thing is, from the stability comes the passion, comes the joy, comes the flamboyance, comes the playfulness, because you know what and who you are at your base. I hope that makes sense, yeah? So in the context of no more Mr. Nice Guy, of being yourself, we're talking here about understanding your thought processes, your feelings, your presumptions, your assumptions. And what you're doing is accepting where you are, going forward in a way which is towards your higher goals, towards what feels right and true and proper, but constantly with this thought on the back of your mind that it might not be completely correct, because you're never that sure, because thoughts are complicated. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me it's a fantastic way of owning your authenticity, of exhibiting your truth, but also of deciding when it's important to exhibit your truth and when, frankly, it's not important. That's why it's so important to understand what is your definition of winning, because it might be important even when somebody is disagreeing with you and your truth disagrees with that, to remain diplomatic, because your values and the values of everything around you in your environment might actually value diplomacy, peace, more than it values being right, as a simple example. Okay, so the whole idea of this is to start to evaluate your motivations, what it is to be you, what do you hold most important, and how do you create the actions that bring that about. Yeah, you end up having courage, you end up having self-confidence, you end up having self-esteem, you end up knowing yourself to the point where it doesn't matter what somebody else does or says or thinks or doesn't say or do or doesn't think, because you're already sufficient. That's the whole critical point of no longer needing to be a nice guy. You're already everything. You're already a beautiful, wonderful, extraordinary, vibrant, vivacious, fantastic, phantasmagorical, illuminating, fascinating person like everybody. Hope that's of interest. Thanks for watching. Cheers.